Yes, folks, we're back again. One game down, India 1-0 up in the series. And if the margin of victory had anything to go by, it would already be 3-0 up in the series.
Nah. I'm there, don't worry. I'm there, don't worry. You know, sometimes when you start off, you put your phone on mute. So Zach was about to become the anchor for a while. Sorry, Zach, you'll have to stick to left arm quick and talk about fast bowling. But welcome once again to...
It's about leaving the ball at the right time. So I left the ball at the right time.
Yeah, I don't know what Gautam's up to. Gautam, you there? Well, we can hear Gautam, but we'll just saw that glitch out a little bit. But this is the start of the second game. And the one thing we noticed in the first was that there really wasn't a contest. I know there's been a lot of talk about this being maybe a second India 11. I've never believed in that because of the depth that is available. But if you told me it's a second Sri Lanka 11, yes, I would have believed it because there's a few people who've been left out for disciplinary reasons. There's a couple who are out for injuries. One or two are unhappy with contracts. Angelo Matthews is a big hole in the middle order. So really, India did, Zach, what they had to over there, which is to say, look, not only are we better than you, but we are going to show that we are better than you by putting this kind of result on the board. Now, up to you to decide how you're going to come back in the second game.
I think more and more we are seeing India go about doing their business. It's about focusing more on themselves rather than focusing on who they're playing against. You've seen the talk which has been building up last few years. It's been always about what they want to do, what they want to achieve. It started with taking the fitness level to the next level, right? Like Virat was very vocal about it. He was constantly saying that we need to be the fittest team. They set benchmarks. You had the yo-yo tests and various different kind of parameters around that for you to as a group raise that bar. And I think they've been able to achieve that. So I think the process has been evolving around focusing and setting goals and targets for themselves rather than focusing too much on which opponents they're playing against.
Gautam, you back?
Yes, I am, and hopefully I can be heard by everyone. I think, I'm going to touch upon a little point as I once again...
No, but I know what you're up to. I know what you're up to, so let's not con people. You wanted to make a last-minute change to your team because of your recent record in Fantasy League.
But, Harsha, I'll correct you there. Even if I had to make that, I'll do it only after the toss. So all I can say is I was keeping a close eye on Surya Kumar Yadav talking just before the game. And one of the interesting things he said was he has been bowling in the nets. So I guess that makes it so versatile that between you, me, and Zach, we can all start off as anchors and play different roles, can't we?
Absolutely. You have to chip in whenever it's required. And I think if Surya is taking it seriously, then that's definitely great news for Indian cricket for sure. Because we've been talking about those top 5-6 batters predominantly have been the genuine batters and not really contributing with the ball, which in the past we've seen, when you had the likes of Viru, Sachin, Saurav for that matter, would contribute with the ball. That really kind of helps you on a particular day to go with a particular combination. So if you have that cushion, that opens up little bit of flexibility around the playing 11 or a particular player you want to tilt towards. So I think from that point of view, it's great news. I hope that he gets that opportunity. I hope that the team is in that position, where they can utilize 2 or 3 overs of Surya just to check where he is. We've seen Kedar Jadhav also doing that job. Who started off as a wicket keeper but had made that impact at the international level.
For now,
Sorry, what does he bowl?
He bowls office.
Yeah, I mean, there was a generation, Gautam, as you know, when any batsman who wanted to bowl off breaks, because that was the easiest thing in the world to bowl. Bowl off breaks. Then, if you wanted to become a Virendra Sehwag kind of standard, then of course you become a better off-spin bowler. Nowadays, everyone wants to bowl leggies. That's why I was quite keen to know. So, Zach, before I go back to Gautam, Surya Kumar Yadav the bowler or Chahal the batsman? Who's better?
I think Surya Kumar Yadav, the bowler, will be able to beat Chahal in that department.
Using an Ejuna.
But let's talk about Chahal's partner in crime, in a sense, Kuldeep Yadav, because genuine bowler. We're not going to worry about his prowess with the bat. And we had so much chatter about Kuldeep before the last game. They picked up a couple of wickets apiece. And in the press conference, this is what Kuldeep had to say. Obviously, talking about them playing together, we asked the questions amongst ourselves. What did Kuldeep have to say? We played together after a really long time. It's the comfort and bond we share that probably helps us do well. We back each other and it shows on the field too. So that kind of answers that question. And I'm going to throw it straight to Zaheer Khan. Zaheer, Kuldeep may be someone we've talked a lot about with issues on and off the field, mental issues, having that comfort of Chahal at the other end. What about any bowler? Yourself, for example, when you were in your playing days and maybe went through a bad spell, 5 overs for 40 runs, haven't taken a wicket, would you look at the other end? Would you look at your partner in crime and say, I need something from that end?
Anyone who is following the game, knows exactly the value of partnerships. Be it batting partnerships or bowling partnerships. You'll hear that often. And what they mean usually is the fact which starts actually a day prior to the game, and depending on what format you're playing. But in the team meetings as well, we often speak about partnerships. So be it bowling or batting, particularly with bowlers, you'll talk about stacking up those consecutive maidens if you're playing a test format, to build that pressure on a batsman, dry them up of runs. Similarly, in white ball cricket as well, you have importance of dot ball in a shortest format, T20, wherein you're not talking about a maiden over, but you'll talk about building up those 3 consecutive dot balls. Similarly, in ODI format, you'll talk about stacking up those good overs together. And the statistics also and the data shows that if you build up 3 good overs together, you're able to create that chance for picking a wicket. So that is the technicality which starts way before the game is even started, because end of the day, it's a team game. So Kuldeep and Chahal is no exception to that. And the numbers show that they've been doing it consistently, even if they might not be knowing it clearly. But I think their styles of bowling and how they go about doing that business, if there is a little bit of help, has been the testimony to that. So yes, obviously Kuldeep saying that he enjoys the comfort when Juicy is at the other end validates with numbers.
Actually, while on Kuldeep, Gautam, I'm looking at his numbers: 9 overs, 2 for 48. In a 50-over game, most days you'll take that hands down because he conceded par runs and took 2 wickets. Most days you're happy. 9 overs, 2 for 48 is damn good. Did he bowl well as Kuldeep can? I mean, he produced that classic left-hander caught at slip wicket, but there were a couple of full tosses he got away with, a couple of short balls that he got away with. It could be that he's back after such a long time. He's a little hesitant. So I'm actually expecting, forget the figures, I'm expecting a little more control today from Kuldeep. And if he gets that control, I didn't see a lot of the wrong runs either that day. So I'm expecting a little more control from him, because I think he's now much more confident. He's looked at his own bowling figures, 2 for 48. Yes, man, I belong here. So that's what I'm expecting from him today.
But I think, to be fair, we were talking about body language, and when we were all watching the game the other day, I think in the first over itself, we sort of felt, okay, this looks all right. He had that one situation where he didn't get the LBW. We were wondering about the Hawkeye, but it all turned out well for him. The same batsman got out next over. But Zaheer, just to complete the discussion, give us a name. If it's Chahal for Kuldeep, who is it for you in your career? Who's the one person who stood out as the person to look at when you're down and out?
It depends. I've had actually many bowlers as my partners over the years. But yeah, Ashish was one. Ajit Agarkar, I've played a lot of cricket with. Nishant, of course, so bowling with the new ball, it always kind of helps. Srishant also, for that matter, has had that.
Munaf, I thought the 2011 World Cup, Munaf bowled a lot of very good overs in the middle.
Correct, but he was bowling as a one change. So
correct.
Usually it used to be say Ashish or Srishant to start with, and then when Munaf would control the innings in the middle. So that's how it was. So yeah, but I think you've seen over the years that if the ball is reversing, at that stage, if in the middle overs in those days you get a fast bowler back and you keep a spinner at the other end, so that that temptation is there for the batsman to take a chance with a spinner which creates that wicket taking opportunity. So I think these are the battles which go on. But as a partnership, if you have to talk about, it's very, very vital, and that understanding in a team environment is very crucial, and that's one of the roles of bowling coach as well. To create that kind of a culture where you're not only thinking about your bowling, but you're also thinking about what's happening at the other end, how the game is moving. All those kind of things really helps you evolve as a bowler.
Yeah, just a quick update. Sri Lanka have won the toss and decided they will bat. We were just wondering after that first game, are we going to look at a side wanting to chase? But Sri Lanka are going to be batting. India will be chasing. We'll talk about all the news as far as the teams are concerned very shortly. But if all of you enjoyed what you saw in that first game, as far as the highlights we had on offer on Cricbuzz Plus, well, there's plenty more on offer today. In addition to what already exists in terms of the vast wealth of interviews and information you can already find in there. But interesting, Harsha, since one of the names Zaheer mentioned was Neraji. He's just sort of round the corner on our Hindi show, so we could actually play that the truth game that you sometimes play. You ask one person the question and see if Ashish Nehra can validate that at the other end.
नहीं Zaheer ऐसे कुछ बोल रहा है, बिल्कुल ऐसे नहीं था. He is, we should actually put him in just off camera, sitting in the same room. I'm a little surprised. They're batting first. Maybe they don't want to chase because sometimes the track slows down in Sri Lanka, and if it makes stroke making difficult, you can understand. You bat first, put up 250, 260, the track is slowing down. The track neither slowed down, yes, it didn't slow down. In fact, it came on beautifully when India were batting, or maybe India made it look like that, and there was no dew. So I'm just a little curious about why they're batting first. Do they really expect that the track will slow down? Or do they think, wow, great batting conditions, afternoon, put India out in the heat, and let's back ourselves to make 300?
Yeah, that's actually a very valid point, because after the last game, it did give you that impression that the wicket got better. The ball was coming onto the bat nicely. There was not much of a turn later in the innings. So looking at those factors, I was a bit of surprised when I saw that Sri Lanka won the toss and elected to bat first. Maybe wasn't a bad option just to see what kind of total that they're chasing. And at times when your batting is not firing, you kind of feel at home when you know what kind of total you're chasing, how to go about it, how to build that innings. The game decides itself. So from that point of view, I think a bit surprised looking at the decision.
Yeah, one thing though, Gautam, I'd like to see the Indian bowling again, because a lot of Sri Lankan batsmen were allowed to get off to starts. And I think if you're playing against a tougher team, if people in the top 5 have all got starts, then 2 of those would have gone on to make 70, 80 and got a big score. So India allowed them to get off to starts because it was a flat deck. So I'm expecting India to maybe just a little bit more, maybe more aggressive fields, maybe more aggressive in the field, but can't allow this Sri Lankan team to get off to so many starts.
Yeah, well, the one thing we can confirm to you is that India haven't tinkered. They haven't made any changes. We were speculating about anyone might be rested. It's exactly the same 11 that won the first game convincingly. So that bowling unit that Harsha was talking about will be in action very shortly. But just first reaction from both of you, Harsha, were you expecting, we didn't think there would be any, but just looking at that unchanged 11, there'll obviously be a message out there, more of the same. Thank you.
No, I wasn't expecting any change because I think Bhuvneshwar needs lots more overs behind him. So India definitely want Bhuvi to play. Chahar is emerging as an option for Bhuvi. So you want to take Chahar as well. Hardik has to bowl a little bit and be that seam bowling all-rounder. Kulcha have done all right. So I wasn't expecting any change at all, to be honest.
Fair enough. But one of the issues, it's all very well to look at a victory that was such a confident victory and say all is well. But it's also good to be able to look at certain numbers critically and say, could we improve in certain areas? Zaheer mentioned that, yes, allowing the Sri Lankan batting to get off to starts, they'll address. But what about bowling in the power play? And I think we've put together a few numbers for you, Zaheer, and I'll bring you straight into this. Since the 2019 World Cup, it's not been a list that India will want to look at. It's a list you definitely want to be higher up on.
It's actually they were doing very well in that department for sure. If you go back just like say 3 years or 4 years, that number was probably in top 2, top 3 in the world. It's just that since 2019 it has been slipping down, and it's slipped down quite drastically actually. You've seen maybe to do with the fact that Bhuvi was not really playing consistently, and he was someone who used to give that first breakthrough very consistently, very quickly. So Bumrah not really bowling that many overs in the first 10 can also be a factor. Also,
he's
not
injured also. He was injured also briefly, yeah.
So yeah, he's missed few games. So I think those were the factors maybe contributed to that slip in that position with regard to taking that first box, which is the most important box as a bowling unit. You've seen so many times when India was achieving that 2 wickets in that first 10 overs. And then the spinners coming on to bowl, it's a different ball game altogether. It gives the spinners that much more comfort, more cushion to be attacking in that middle phase. When you don't have that wicket, you start off defensive, and then you have to create that opportunity, and then go on the charge, which you've seen in the previous one. Chahal, as soon as he got into the attack, got that wicket, and then things started to fall into place. But if that job is done by the fast bowlers, then it makes it that much easier for spinners to carry on from there. So from that point of view, that box needs a really, really good looking after, and enough emphasis needs to be given to make sure that you be attacking, you be aggressive, you find out ways of picking those early wickets.
So just a quick one from Zach on that new ball bowling itself. We saw Bhuvi got a little bit of swing early on, maybe 1 over, 2 overs, that's it. Deepak Chahar's length was a little shorter, but he's also a swing bowler. The moment there was no swing, they just dropped pace and concentrated on bowling a length and waiting for the batsman to make a mistake. Maybe even started taking pace off very early. What would you do? Ball's not swinging, wicket is placid. You still need to take pitch is placid. Still need to take wickets.
I think you still need to look for that wicket taking option. So if the ball is not swinging, maybe you can use your speed variation up. Rather than taking the pace off, usually works in your favor, because that initial part, your risk to reward ratio has to be more on the risk side. So if you take bigger risk, there are chances that you will be rewarded with a wicket. But if you don't make that call there, if you don't sense the game at that stage, at times it's not often that you're going to see that batters throw away their wicket after setting that platform for themselves. Once you play 20-25 deliveries as a batsman at the highest level, you're expecting that batsman to go on to get that 70-80, that big score, in ODIs, that 100. And a good batter is not going to give you that opportunity. So when you are approaching the game, you often need to think about, there is time when the good batter is batting. How can I approach that situation? So I think it's better to take more risk in the first 10 overs, even if you a little expensive. It's fine because it's new ball. If you get a wicket, you're helping the team achieve that platform.
2 key aspects to the bowling. One, of course, is this power play, and we've talked about the importance of taking wickets. The numbers didn't matter as far as that last match is concerned. The numbers also didn't really matter, Harsha, as far as the result was concerned with the death bowling, because we saw a couple of really expensive overs to finish with, which in this context didn't matter. But the fact is, in a crucial game, it might matter.
So who is going to be what is India's death bowling going to be? I mean, this is ODI cricket. India don't have a World Cup for another 2 years. We still have to win matches. So going ahead, what is India's death bowling going to be? Do you stick with Bumrah? Is there a plan B to Bumrah? Chahar has traditionally been used more upfront. We saw Shami bowl a couple of really good death overs in the IPL. So do you expect Shami to come back and bowl at the death? We're all saying this because we want to see how Bhuvi develops. If Bhuvi becomes the bowler that we know he can, with lots more bowling behind him, if he's 100% fit, then I think that issue will get resolved. That's another issue where India used to be pretty good. Maybe just a little dip for Bumrah sometimes. Maybe also India views spinners going into 41, 42, 43 because of the extra fielder allowed outside. That could be a reason. But yeah, I mean, that Sri Lankan team took 70, 80 runs in the last 10 overs. A better team might have taken 90, 95.
Zaheer, do you expect a little bit of a change in terms of the combination? Because it seemed a little experimental with what they were doing with Hardik Pandya, expectedly. particularly at the death, when you expected Deepak Chahar to come and finish his stint, he's picked up wickets, he tossed the ball to Hardik.
Well, in my opinion, I like that experiment. So I think as a player or as a captain, if I'm there on the field, how I would like to approach that kind of a scenario is by having options. And you've seen it with MS also. He used to prefer to have those options because you don't know who's going to have a tough day and who's going to have a really good day. So when you have options, if you waste someone's overs, it's still okay. But if the game has gone that far, and because of the new rules as well, that extra fielder is allowed after 40th over. Usually, if you have wickets in hand, teams tend to start that charge, say around 35th, 37th over, and that is something that changed the dynamic. So you want your main bowlers to close off that situation of the game, and then you have spinners bowling a couple of overs there. So if you have, say, 3 or 4 options to play around in those last 8 to 10 overs, especially when the wicket's in hand with the opposition, if they're in a strong position, you need those options, because if the two set batters are batting there, it's never easy for a bowler to bowl 3 or 4 overs at the death. So you need that flexibility around that. So I actually like that experiment where you are on one side saying, oh, maybe 1 hour of Deepak Chahar is wasted, or Bhuvi's overs are wasted. It still kind of gave Shikhar as a captain to maneuver his resources and go for someone if someone is having a tough day.
Yeah. That is why those 5-6 overs from Hardik are so critical, because as we talk in a T20 game, that you go in with about 23, 24 overs available to you, maybe 22, 23 overs available to you when you go into a T20 game. I think you go in with 55, 56 overs available to you in a 50-over game. So the moment Hardik starts giving you 5 overs, you can go into the back 10 with maybe 4 bowlers who haven't finished their quota, and I also think they like Hardik bowling at the end. I think Hardik likes doing it as well, but I think they like the idea of Hardik bowling some overs at the death.
Well, if there's one thing that Sri Lanka had, they didn't have the result going for them, but if there's one edge they had over India, purely numerically, it's the number of bowlers they had available to them. They had 8 bowling options. They used 7. Dasun Shanaka, the captain,
but 8 bowling options is not 8 bowlers. It's 8 options. It's not 8 bowlers, though. As we
Fair
saw.
enough. Yeah. Fair enough. But there is one change that Sri Lanka have made. It's possibly a bit of a like-for-like change. Kasun Rajitha making his way in for Isuru Udana. That's the only change that Sri Lanka have made. But it still means, whether you look at it from Harsha's point of view as options versus bowlers, they do have players to rotate around as and when they defend this total, Zaheer.
Absolutely, and Isuru Udana looked little off color. Maybe it might be a forced change rather than the form change. Is what my feeling is around that, because he's been their key player. So maybe there is some niggle or injury issue which they have to look at. Like how we're talking about how Sri Lanka should approach this game. If they're batting first now, it's their responsibility of the batters to make sure that they get to 300. With this team, they are going to need 300 runs on board minimum, and on top of that, they'll need a great start with the ball. So I think there is a lot to work towards when it comes to Sri Lanka team in this match.
With that Isuru Udana issue, I've seen with a lot of bowlers, and since he's left-handed, you'll know it even better, that when they become take the pace off bowlers, they lose their natural, they start off being 135, 136, swinging the ball in and using the slow ball as a backup option. When they become back of the hand or slow ball bowlers, they tend to lose that speed and swing. I wonder if that's what's happened to him, because first 2 overs he went for 27. There was no movement. There was nothing in those first 2 overs. We see a lot of bowlers who become specialist death bowlers lose their ability to bowl in the first 10.
You've seen that, and especially with the back of the hand bowlers or someone who is working more on slow ones. At times you get caught up. When you have to be aggressive bowler, and I think that's what was happening with Isuru Udana in the previous game. When you know that you are below par, defending below par score, you are actually wanting to be aggressive because you're looking at those wickets. At the moment he was looking to crank it up to Prithvi Shaw when he was going strong, he was going down the leg, and it just basically shows that he's not used to being aggressive in that fashion. He's more inclined towards going by the standard format. How usually a game starts. The batters are taking their time, or they're looking to be on a good track. How usually the game moves, you are able to just bowl those back of the hand slow ones, or holding your line and bowling within yourself rather than being over aggressive or over attacking, and there's only one way of changing this, just by going out there in the nets and letting yourself loose and have that freedom.
I wonder, Harsha, if Chaminda Vas would have been any different if he was bowling in a slightly different era, maybe today.
Yeah, but he was just so beautiful. And Chaminda Vas was never 140 kilometers an hour, right? He was brisk. But his first over, if you watch the number of times Vas got an LBW or a bold in the first over, because he would always swing the ball back into the right-hander first over every time. Of course, in those days, the ball used to swing for a little longer. I don't know what it is with these white balls. I wonder if while manufacturing, they go through a machine which weeds out all the balls that are likely to swing for more than 2 overs.
Yeah, that's been the case of late. But at the moment, Vas is on the sidelines. It's going to be the men on the field who'll have to do the job. But before the bowlers do the job for Sri Lanka, whether they use 7 or 8, the batters have to do it for them. And they certainly had a few issues in the last game. One issue, batsmen getting starts, not quite going on. The other issue, we briefly discussed it, Zaheer and Harsha, that was the boundary hitting, particularly in the middle overs. So they kind of slowed down. They got some big runs in the last 2 overs that should have taken them to 320, but not 262.
I mean, look at the number of boundaries. Just as we talk of taking wickets in overs 11 to 40 from a bowling side, you want wicket-taking bowlers so that you're not going towards 35, 38 with, say, 7, 8 wickets in hand. You also don't want to go to sleep in the middle overs on the assumption that if I keep wickets, I will get runs there at the end anyway. So even if you don't hit, I mean, India's boundary hitting percentage was ridiculously higher. But that's because you've got these Ishan Kishans and Surya Kumar Yadavs who just like to measure the boundary distance.
And Prithvi Shaw.
Yeah, but he was more in the first 10. I was looking more 11 to 40. But you also need people, if you can hit a boundary every 2 overs, 11 to 40, that's fantastic.
I mean, I know we keep referring, Zaheer, to the IPL and the good that it does in terms of just making people ready for the big stage. But are there these little nuances like boundary hitting that also come out of that, which you can use judiciously?
I think I'll take it to just sheer ability. I think, it's the confidence in your abilities, is the belief that, you can go out there and be able to achieve that and put good balls out for boundaries. And also that confidence of knowing that if I hit a good ball for a boundary, the bowler is going to be under pressure. And I think, that's the gap which we've been seeing with how Indian batters have been approaching, and how generally in white ball cricket, how the bowlers have been a bit on the defensive side. I think, there is going to be a time where the bowlers are going to say, okay, enough is enough. The batters are anyways going to hit. I much rather just be aggressive, attacking, and look for wickets. So that is something, a change which eventually will happen. But at the moment, the batters, and particularly Indian batters or the good batters at the global level right now, they are able to use this kind of a mindset to their advantage.
These numbers might just tell a story, because if you look at teams in the middle overs, since we've started that discussion, and balls per boundary again is an important factor. Look where India, look where Sri Lanka, and in the long run, it's something that does start making a big difference to the kind of totals you finish up with.
When Morgan said, for a long time, he said you must never get bowled out in the 47th over because you wasted 3 overs. Owen Morgan's principle is, if we bat a certain way and get the number of runs we do, it's okay if we get bowled out in the 47th over, but we will not stop going for it. But for that to happen, you must back 8, 9. Suppose there's a day when you lose 2, 3 wickets going, number 4, 5 also have to feel that they can go keep playing the same game if you're batting deep. And so we come back to 5, 6, 7 and 50 overs cricket. Number 8 has to bat. England have had someone like Moeen Ali batting down, Chris Wokes batting down. So they're batting deeper. So if you're batting 8, 9, you can continue playing like that. But I think if you see England and India, it's about 0.3 boundaries in over that entire period, right? 0.3 boundary per ball. So if you extrapolate, it's actually quite a big difference. But look at where you go the others down. Look at Bangladesh and the others. They're hardly scoring boundaries in those end overs. If you are looking, okay, where's Sri Lanka here? Right, Sri Lanka is taking 15 balls. 15 balls per boundary. 10 to 40 is 30 overs. That's 90 balls. 30 or 180 balls. 180 balls at 15 balls, you're only hitting 12 boundaries over a period of time. You're only hitting 12 boundaries in 30 overs.
And also, it has been a process. It's not happened overnight. it's the decision was made overnight. Maybe when after 2015 World Cup, when England had that exit from that World Cup, they just made that conscious decision of saying that, okay, what kind of cricket you want to play as a team, what brand of cricket you want to be recognized with, and where you are lacking. And they identified those areas and they said, okay, fine. Then the selection and the whole process was based on how we can achieve that. And that's when the importance of number 7 batter or number 8 batter or number 9 bowler who can bat, those kind of concepts came into play, and those kind of players were identified and backed. And the result is then just a follow-up of that process, which has been consistent. So that's how you've been able to achieve the change. So when you're looking at Sri Lanka, way down that in that list, for a team like that, it's just about identifying. Okay, it's just like case studies, right? Like you just do, okay, this team has done well. Why they have been able to do well, and the story pretty much is similar in most of the cases.
Over a period of time, you see India is hitting 6 boundaries more than Sri Lanka in that period. That's 24 runs straight away. But with the impact of a boundary and the setting of the field and moving the field around, it will probably add up to an extra 35 runs. I think if you're hitting 24 in boundaries, it will add up to an extra 35 runs.
But the question is, Zaheer posed the question to finish off, Harsha. He used the word ability when I was trying to suggest what is it that India are doing right. If it's about ability and you've got Sri Lanka missing a few key players, someone like a Kusal Perera would have changed that equation immediately. So what do Sri Lanka do now? How do they address this? One thing to say that let's try and push the percentage up. Who's going to do it?
Look, if Kusal Perera had played, I'm just looking down that side, who would have missed out? Maybe Rajapaksa would have missed out. If Kusal Perera was playing, maybe Avishka would have come down. Maybe Bhanuka would have come down. They would have missed out a powerful hitter anyway. So how much difference is Kusal Perera making? Yeah, I mean, he's one of the 4 people around whom that team revolves. So yeah, they're missing him. I think they're missing a lot of players. They're missing the likes of Kusal Mendes, whose career stagnated, but is still a quality player. They're missing Angelo Matthews, not because he's got problems on the field, but off the field. And all that adds up to what you're doing on the field. But Zach is absolutely right. I mean, eventually, it's just...
And the other two, Harsha, Niroshan Dikwela, Dhanushka Gunutilaka, both of them.
Yes.
I mean, all the 3 guys, as it turned out, who are going through this ban, are all key players for them.
And I mean, what do you tell people who are told, listen, there's a bubble here, you're not going anywhere? I felt like a sandwich, man. Well, okay, we could have infected the entire side. Who knows? I mean, in England, there's infection everywhere. And that's because they've not, they vaccinate everyone and they want to go out. I'm very worried about the test series as well. If India allow their players the same freedom, I'm worried about that test series. Let me be honest. If you're allowed to go around, I think India's bubble will be far stronger than theirs. So they brought it on themselves. But if you look at that record that we had, I think on a couple of days ago, of where Sri Lanka are in the ODI rankings and how little they've won in recent times, with all these people, they still lost.
Yeah, and one of the things Harsha refers to is the Super League standings as well. And I think that is important. Let's remind you
Sri
that...
Lanka need these points, remember. Sri Lanka need these points. Because India
desperately need these points to go up. Because India don't really, I mean, it's not of as much significance to India because they do qualify as a host. 7 other teams will get through directly to that next 50-over World Cup, and everybody else will be going through a qualification process. So this is hugely important, Zaheer, as we said, if you look at that points table for Team Sri Lanka.
Absolutely. I think you don't want to go through that process, and they're a better team than that. Let's just put it this way. You look at the Sri Lankan history, they've come a long way. It's just that I feel at this point, they've lost that crucial window where the transition phase should have happened and that overlapping should have happened. They've lost that. So it's just that there is going to be that much more work to create those role models for the youngsters, get the balance right, back the right players, find players with ability, and give them that long rope. So it's just a process which is delayed a bit. But when you look at the Sri Lankan cricketers, in terms of the talent which they have, it's right there. All the ingredients are there. I think it's just the touch up on the administration side, the touch up on how the culture is building in the team. Those kind of finer details need to be looked after and taken to the next level.
2 big names from Sri Lankan cricket who have always played a role on the field. how much of a role can they play off the field? I'll come to you, Harsha, first. You had a chat with Kumar Sangakkara. It's always invaluable when you talk to Kumar. But when you had a chat on Cricbuzz and Conversation, how much was there anything about current Sri Lankan cricket that really stood out for you?
It's like the West Indies. The more you talk about the past, the more you highlight the inadequacies of the present. So the more we talk about Mahela and Sangha, and not just those two. Remember the backup player. For every Murali, there was a Vas. There was Samaravira, who was scoring a lot of runs. There was Dilshan. A little before that, there was Atapattu. So outside of the stars, there were some really good players. Tisara Pereira was coming up. Angelo Matthews was coming up. So the support cast was also very good. It's not happening. I mean, Jayawardene has been asked to play a role in Sri Lankan cricket. He said no. Sangakkara has been asked. He said, yeah, maybe no. If they're saying no, it means there's an issue somewhere. And they've had these interim committees come and go. I think they've lost the trust of the great players of the past. See, the moment Rahul Dravid became India A coach, suddenly Pakistan said, we want Yunus Khan to do that. And Yunus Khan said, "Haan, main karunga," but Yunus Khan is the case of the disappearing wife. You know, he'll be there one day, suddenly he's gone tomorrow. And Jayawardene would do that role for Sri Lanka, but they don't want to do it. And I think there is the issue there. There's got to be trust across the administrative setup.
Yeah, talking of Mahela, Jayawardene, Zaheer, you would have had plenty of chats in that dressing room at Mumbai Indians. Obviously, a lot related to Mumbai Indians cricket, but I'm sure there would have been chats on Sri Lanka cricket as well.
Absolutely, and also the fact that there are not many Sri Lankan players in IPL. That also speaks volumes, right? Like the franchises are not really looking at those players. There has to be some reason for that, right? And the players are not getting consistent chances or the long string of chances, which a player needs to evolve himself as a cricketer has not been happening. Was echoed for sure, in my chats with MJ as well, and also the changes and the consistency needs to come from the top, and the administration has to set certain processes. Has to have some certain kind of philosophy which they follow and how they see Sri Lankan cricket going forward. And you have the greats of the game to help you around. But obviously, the reason maybe Mahela and Sangha are staying away from that is because not enough freedom must be there for them to take those calls. So if the freedom is not there for someone to have the passion but not the freedom to make the decisions, then it's the results are never going to come. So it's a combination of various things. I think when I look at Sri Lankan cricket.
I mean, they're playing Rajasthan Royals and Mumbai Indians, not Sri Lanka. There's a story there, isn't there?
Well, there certainly is. There's so much cricket happening as far as Team India are concerned. I think it's not too long before they pop up with a little bit of actual cricket in half an hour's time in Durham. They're playing a 3-day game. This was something that they had requested. And all eyes will be on the other Team India. While
I like the way you said the other Team India.
Yeah,
who's keeping wickets? KL Rahul's keeping wickets in that game.
Yes. It looks like it will be. So are they the A team at the moment? This is the B team, or do we not even want to get down that road?
It's not the other Team India. It's the Indian Test team, and the Indian ODI team is in Sri Lanka. I like it. That's going to be the future, yeah. We're
going to throw A's, B's and C's out the window. Correct. It's going to be in format. The T team and the O team. And we've got to find something for, if it's T20 internationals, I team maybe. We'll call them the I team. But for the moment, let's look at the J team. It is, of course, the Joy Factor. And our little teaser for today, which says, nice and short. Sometimes these questions can be long. In 2018, who joined a list which originally just featured Yuvraj Singh and Chris Gale? Hashtag Cricbuzz Live, get your answers in. There's lists that keep changing. But UV and Gale, it's tempting to think of only one thing, but there could be so many others. For now, let's get some numbers out there. Once again, Harsha, Sri Lanka win the toss, bat first. 262 was nowhere close to enough.
I'm going. By the way, talking about Chris Gale, the other day he turned his arm overboard 3 overs for 9. So you never know what Chris Gale is going to do.
And he took a wicket and he did a somersault.
There you go. Oh, he did a somersault. How was that?
Yes, he did. He's fine. The somersault had more hits on Instagram than his wicket.
I'm going 259.
Okay, just a little improvement from the 230s the other day. Zaheer, are you going to go up from the 275?
I think I'll stick to 275. They've set the platform in the previous one. I'm just hoping that they will go a notch higher from there, and maybe get my prediction.
I'm being asked to highball. I'm not going to highball this time. I'm going to go highball from my own score.
Going to. People are telling you what numbers to put. Fixing.
The voice of God is in my ear. But I'm going to go from my original 192 to a 238, which was your department last time around, Harsha. Okay. Once again, faith in the Indian bowlers. I have a feeling Sri Lanka are going to go hard for that 275, and they're going to fall short by losing wickets. Okay. So that's where I go for my 238. Let's see what happens. We'll have 15th over Cricbuzz Combox to see how that progress is going towards the 238 or the 275, and we'll join you then. That's all we have on this build-up show to our second ODI on Cricbuzz Live. We'll see you soon.